And here we go. Okay, so everyone's joining. Okay, hello everyone, welcome. We are about ready to get started. Okay, Jeremy, whenever you're ready.
Okay, welcome everyone. We're glad you're here this evening. We want to thank you for being here with us, especially on CRNA week. We want to give a good shout out to all the CRNAs and all the good that you do around the country. My name is Jeremy Stanley, and I'm one of the foundation trustees, and I'm also president of CRNA Financial Planning. Nat, I'll let you do your own introduction here.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Matt Carmichael. I'm the director of the AANA Foundation. I work with foundation staff and also the board of trustees, and we help raise money to support education and research that helps students and CRNAs and really the whole profession. A lot of good work is done through the AANA Foundation. And so we've got just 30 minutes to cover a lot of really good material for you. And so unfortunately, we're going to have you hold off on questions, but we would like you, if you do have a question, post it in the chat. And what we'll try to do is get out some answers to those questions, hopefully an FAQ sheet after this presentation is done. So I think we're all set. Whenever you're ready, Jeremy.
That sounds good. Well, Nat, I'll let you take another one here since this is the 40th anniversary of the AANA Foundation. Maybe we can give a little background here.
Yeah, that's right. The AANA Foundation, it was founded in 1981, and the purpose was to help fund education and research efforts in nurse anesthesia. So over the years, the foundation has funded over 6.3 million in total, in terms of total programs that we fund. And you can see on the pie chart here, the different areas. Primarily, we've got scholarships and health policy research. Health policy research is critical to helping advance the profession at both the federal and the state level to prove that CRNAs are both safe and cost effective. We also fund lots of other research grants, fellowships, and posters. And so, yeah, that's the foundation in a nutshell.
Yeah, good work. And also, again, as I said earlier, we really want to say thank you for all you do, and we really want to celebrate CRNA Week. Nat, anything you want to add to that?
No, we just appreciate everything you guys do. Being on the front lines and being, the care workers that are really working hard through the pandemic. We appreciate all you do.
Yeah, I was preparing for this today, and my wife says, what are you going to do for me for CRNA Week? So kind of got me in trouble. Now I got to do something for her this week as well. So we'll start out with the fundamentals. What is an estate plan? Simply put, Nat, an estate plan is really just a map of what you want to have happen when you pass away or if you're incapacitated. And you want a plan that will fulfill those objectives that you've laid out for yourself. And then, who needs an estate plan? Nat, you want to kind of talk through this one?
Oh, sure. Well, the chances are really you do. I would say that everyone needs to be looking to have a plan for, really the unknown. I mean, you never like to think about these things. You don't like to think about what might happen to you if you were in a car wreck or if you passed away suddenly. But yeah, it's really for everyone. So not just the wealthy. It's if you die without an estate plan, you can't really control what happens to your property. And so it really gives you a nice tool set to make sure whatever you want to happen will happen. It makes your wishes crystal clear, and it helps avoid family disputes. And really proper estate planning can help you preserve more of your assets and save from excess taxation, while also providing for the ones that you care about and maybe the causes you care about as well.
Yeah. And, a lot of people don't want to talk about this stuff, Nat. Nobody really wants to think about dying or becoming incapacitated. But it made me think about something when you just said family disputes. I remember years ago, we had some clients, it was back when the FDIC insurance level was $100,000. And every time a CD came due, he gave each one of his two daughters $100,000. He put their name on the account. Well, he happened to die when it wasn't even. And I'll never forget sitting in our conference room with the lawyer who was working through the estate with the girls. And he said, well, you know, whatever your name is, I can't remember her name at the moment, but you got an extra $100,000 your sister didn't get. Of course, sister wasn't happy about that. And she said, well, that's fine. I'll just give her $100,000. And he goes, well, if you do that, there'll be a gift tax. And she goes, well, she'll just have to pay it. And he looked at her and he goes, no, if you give it to her, you have to pay it. And she said, well, I guess she's not getting it. And I'll never forget that. That was a very uncomfortable situation. So, you know, we'll hit on some of those things. If you have minor children, you definitely need to have an estate plan in place. As the slide shows right here, $11,700,000 if your estate's anywhere near that. If you're that lucky, in 2021, you also need to be planning for your estate. You know, if you own property in different states, that's another reason to make sure you've got a plan in place, because each state has different laws and rules. And if you own a business, you want to make sure that that's taken care of as well. So we're going to hit on some of the basic concepts here tonight. So one is going to be planning for incapacity. If you can't make decisions for yourself, who's going to make those decisions for you? What happens upon your death? If you've got healthcare decisions that need to be made, who's going to take care of that? What is a will and what is probate? Who's going to manage your property? If there's any tax concerns, you know, do I want to start a gifting routine or have a lifetime gifting routine? How does life insurance fit in? And then we'll kind of top it off and put the cherry on the cake here with the last thing will be trust. And so many people don't understand trust, so we'll just hit the basic concepts tonight. So now, why don't you talk a little bit about incapacity?
Sure. Yeah, I started to say earlier that, yeah, you just never know, you know, when something might happen. So you just need to be ready. And so thinking about it now, you know, certainly helps. You know, I think all of you are in this webinar because you probably realized maybe in the back of your head that, yeah, you know, I really need to think more about this and make sure that, you know, I start getting myself prepared for whatever may come. And so I'm glad that you guys are here and you took that step. And so hopefully after we share these ideas with you, you can take it even further and hopefully put some of these concepts to work. But if you don't have a plan, a court may make decisions on your behalf that you may not want. You know, for instance, you may want to decide who that trusted loved one is that's going to make the decisions if you can't make them for yourself. A lack of planning, it increases the burden on your guardian. So if they have no idea what you would have wanted, they might be stressed. It's, you know, it's hard on families, I think, when they don't have a good solid idea of what the individual would have wanted. And also the guardian's decisions might not be what you would want. So again, this is an opportunity to really make crystal clear what your intentions are.
Yeah, all good points. And then there's certain ways to do that with your healthcare directives. And the first, maybe a lot of you have heard of, is a living will. It just puts into writing, you know, what you want or what you don't want. For example, I don't want to be on life support if I'm in a vegetative state. And a lot of you in the healthcare industry, you know, you're very familiar with that one. Another might be the durable power of attorney for healthcare. And it lets you designate someone, could be a spouse, could be a trusted family friend, to make those decisions on your behalf. And each one of these documents are different documents that you need in your estate plan. And then the do not resuscitate order. You know, I don't want to be artificially fed if, you know, I can't take care of myself. You know, I don't want life support and so forth. But you've also got to remember, you know, we're probably talking to a crowd in different states. Each state has their own rules dealing with this. We just want to make sure that you understand kind of the basics and then check with, you know, an attorney or someone in your state to find out what the actual rules are. And another area that we're going to talk about is property management. You know, what happens again if you can't make those decisions about the property you own? First and easiest way to handle this is have joint ownership. It might be with a spouse, a partner, significant other, a business partner. But a joint owner can make the same decisions that you can and continue on that property just like it was yours. You know, another document that we always recommend is that people have a durable power of attorney. The durable power of attorney basically lets someone make all those same decisions that you would have made if you were able to. They can sign your checks, they can pay your bills, they can enter into contracts. You know, anything that you can do is kind of named out in that durable power of attorney. And last but not least is living trust, and we're going to talk a little bit more about trust later. But a living trust can also take the place of some of these documents, and the trustee can actually make those decisions for you if you are incapacitated. So Nat, you want to hit this one?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So what would happen if you were to die without an estate plan? And so it's something that, yeah, you've got to sort of, you know, face it down and just think about, you know, your own situation and what would it mean if you didn't have an estate plan? Well, some of the things would be that some of your property would pass to the people that you would want it to, because you've already named them on different instruments. So some examples would be retirement plans. You know, retirement plans have beneficiary spots where you put in the name of the individual who you want to receive it if you pass away. Same thing with life insurance. You know, there's lots of things like that where you do have a beneficiary listed and it will go to that person. But anything else, if it doesn't have that beneficiary designation, anything else, you know, could pass according to state intestacy laws. And so that may not be what you're looking for at all.
Yeah, and that could be like automobiles or bank accounts, stock or brokerage accounts that don't, you know, have a joint owner or a TOD, which is another thing that we'll talk about in a minute. So it could be a lot of assets for sure. So what happens if you die without an estate plan? Well, intestacy laws vary from state to state. So we're in North Carolina, Nat, you're in Illinois. I'm sure the intestacy laws are vastly different, but a typical distribution will look something like the slide here. Let's say husband, father passes away. Then anything that is not passed by beneficiary designation is subjective to the intestacy laws. So in this scenario, wife would get 1/2 and each child would get 1/4. In some states, the parents are entitled to a certain percentage as well. And I always tell our clients that there's one thing for sure. I can almost guarantee you it's not the way you would want to distribute your estate. So in this scenario, your actual wishes are irrelevant. You know, I get the question all the time as well. If I die without, you know, a will or trust, is the state going to keep all my property? No, unless there's just no one else in your family, that typically would not happen. But it does set up for a lot of potential problems. If you can imagine, you know, your children, you know, think about my scenario at 18, 19 years old. If my father would have passed away and, you know, he'd have had $1 million and, you know, I'd have got $250,000, I can only imagine what I'd have done with it at that point in time. You were probably better than I was, but.
No, I think, yeah, yeah, any child of that age, yeah, you never really quite know what they might do. But yeah, there's some weird situations that can happen. Some state laws where if it's, you know, I've seen some laws where the split happens between the wife and the parents. You wouldn't necessarily expect that, you know, you would think that everything would just pass to your spouse. But yeah, in some cases they would, if you didn't leave a will, yeah, your parents could end up with something which clearly doesn't make a lot of logical sense in most cases. So
yeah, no, it definitely doesn't. So that's in the intestate succession. So the next thing we'll talk about is probably something that most of you have heard of, and that's a will. But you know, I don't think people fully understand the probate process, and we'll talk about that as well. But you know, a will is really just the basic estate plan. It just directs how your property is going to be distributed if you pass away. It names the executor and the guardian for minor children. And it can do some estate planning goals for you. It can minimize some taxes, not a lot, but some. It's written, signed by you and witnessed. And this last one here, you can have bequests under your will to give to charities and so forth. I know that happens at the foundation a lot.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity. You really, have a lot of things you can do in your will, and one, leaving gifts to the charities that you care about. It's a great way to do it. We've had a lot of CRNAs that have included, scholarships or endowments as a bequest in their will, and so it's a great way to leave a legacy and to kick it off by leaving that in there. So it's a terrific way to make gifts.
Yeah, great way to give back for sure. So probate, mainly probate is just a court-driven process that kind of oversees the will's wishes, per se. So Nat, you want to kind of fill it in a little bit more from there?
Sure. The probate process, it involves courts, and it's I wouldn't say it's pleasant. Anytime you have to deal with the court system is probably not a good day. But it's really, most wills are probated. There's filings. The executor, who is the individual that you name to handle really all of your affairs that are associated with the will, they collect assets, they pay debts, they file tax returns, distribute property to the people that you name. It's a lot of work, so be sure to think carefully about who you're going to name as executor, because they're going to have some work to do, and so you want to have someone that you really trust in that spot. And then it can last, the probate process can last a while, several months to a year. If you have family that aren't really satisfied with what's in the will and how the process is going, family disputes can, extend it, could be several years. So it can be difficult for sure.
Yeah. Another thing that's going on now, the court systems are so backed up around the country because of COVID, that I'm understanding it's taken even longer now to get the probate process done. But having a will and going through probate, obviously there are good things about it and there are bad things about it. For the most part, time and costs are typically modest, in a good time. It can get done in several months if everything goes smoothly. And the costs are not real expensive. Each state has their own probate costs, some more than others. But it is a court supervised process to make sure that everything you wanted to have happen actually does happen. And there's some protection in there against creditors. When someone passes away, there's a limited time for creditors to come in and make claim to the estate. And after that, it's pretty difficult for them to get anything. But as Nat said, especially for more complex estates, they can be more time consuming. You can have more family issues in there that can take up more time. And there can be fees. Usually if it's a larger estate, there are attorneys involved and are charging hourly fees and so forth, and some charge a percentage of the estate to kind of settle that estate. And one of the things that I think concerns people a lot too is that most people are pretty private about their financial matters, Nat, and they want to make sure that if something happens to them, everybody doesn't know what they had and who they left it to. And that's one of the problems with probate, is it's a public court record. So if you can, most people want to avoid probate and design an estate plan, that does that. Nat, you want to take this one?
Oh yeah. There's lots of ways to move assets that you have to kind of get them outside of the probate process. The easiest way, of course, is if you have property jointly with a spouse, like say it's a checking account or a mortgage, things like that. There's more than one person on the account. And so if one passes away, it's easy enough for the other to pick up with it. They can continue on. With beneficiary designation forms for property such as retirement plans, life insurance. Again, that's something else that passes outside of the probate process, because you have named beneficiaries and it's not going to end up in probate. There's ways that you can get additional assets out of the probate process by using trusts. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in the presentation. And then lifetime gifts. It's a really good way to reduce the overall load or everything that's in your estate by making gifts either to family or to charity during your lifetime.
And Nat, I was just thinking as you were talking about beneficiary designations, we had a scenario where the client actually passed away and had a life insurance policy at work, and had gotten divorced and remarried, but had forgotten to update the beneficiary on the life insurance policy at work. And it was, a pretty substantial life insurance policy, but the old wife was the beneficiary, and he never adjusted it to new wife. And going through that process with new wife was a lot of fun, I can say, because she was not real happy that old wife got that insurance, and there was really nothing they could do about it. So I guess you want to make sure those beneficiary designations are exactly what you want them to be. And another thing that kind of hit there, Nat, and it kind of leads into a lot of the stuff we do at the foundation, is making gifts to charity and so forth. And I know one of the things, I'm going to put this slide up, but talking about our Friends for Life program, why don't you give us a little bit of background on that, and if people might be interested, how they could go about doing that.
Sure. Yeah, Friends for Life. It's a program that has been around a long time. Since 1989. CRNAs have been leaving a legacy as part of their estate plan, really to their profession, to help further education and research. And so really what the program is, you can leave a bequest in your will. Most of the gifts that we see through Friends for Life are through estate planning things. So it could be a designation on a life insurance policy or retirement plan where you leave a portion of that. The base commitment to join Friends for Life, it's a gift of at least $25,000. But we've had lots of creative ways where people have joined Friends for Life through, they might have created a scholarship while they're alive, like an endowment. And something like that is great because they really get to enjoy the benefits of seeing scholarships awarded to students, SRNAs. So it can be really fulfilling. And if there's the charitable intent there, and they really want to give back to the profession, this is a great way to do it. You can see the red ribbons there. If you've gone to any AANA meetings, you might have seen these ribbons. But yeah, it's just a great way to leave something for the profession.
Yeah, it is, and a good looking group there too. All right, so we'll kind of switch up here. We're going to talk a little bit about taxes. A lot of people are concerned about gift taxes and estate taxes. So we're going to kind of define them for you. So there is a federal gift tax, and that is if you give something away during your lifetime, there is a tax. There's an estate tax that's imposed if you do a transfer upon death. And then there's another type of tax that probably a lot of you haven't heard of. It's called the generation skipping transfer tax. And that is one scenario of, say we got mother and father, and they're not going to leave the money to their kids, but it's going to go to their grandchildren. And then there's various levels of state taxes as well that we'll kind of hit on here. So I'll go ahead and cover this first one, Nat, the federal gift tax. And the gift tax really, like I said, applies to any transfers made during your life. This year, you can give $15,000 away to anybody you want to. If you need Nat and I's information you want to give to us, that's great. We'll take it, right, Nat?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can give it to as many people as you want. And if you're married, you and your spouse or partner can each give $15,000 a piece. So you get $30,000 per person per year. And that $11,700,000 number plays true right here too. Remember, that's the amount that you can give away at death. You can also give that away during lifetime. So if you gave $1 million during your life away in gifts, and then upon death, you'd still have $10.7 million left to use at your death. And I will say that this is the largest exclusion in the history of the federal estate and gift tax that we've got currently. And we know that's gonna change as we move forward here as well. So, so I'll let you talk about the illustrious estate tax here.
Yeah, the estate tax. So the federal government, yeah, they really don't want you to pass all of your wealth on to the next generation. They want their cut. And so the estate tax is here. But I mean, fortunately, if you have a large estate, I mean, it's, the exclusion is so large right now. But yeah, the estate tax is really looking at death. And so that's the whack that the federal government looks to get. And so, and actually the reason why the gift tax exists is because they didn't want people giving away all of their wealth while they were alive. And so they're kind of getting, both sides of the coin while you're alive and while you're dead. So it's hard for people to really get away from it. But yeah, what's important to know here is that, yeah, it is connected. So if you give away, if you use, say 5 million of your gift tax exemption, that also goes against your estate tax exemption because they're tied together. So you would only have, only 6.7 million left.
Only 6.7.
Only 6.7. But yeah, what's important here is that these laws are subject to change. And actually in 2025 is the year where this current exclusion is going to sunset and will revert back to a $5 million level, which is, it's still that's a big exemption, or a big exclusion, I should say. But you'd be surprised at how quickly your wealth can grow and how quickly you may need to think about, both the estate and gift tax.
That's very true. And, I think the 11.7 and it's 23,400,000 that you can, if you do proper planning, leave to your beneficiaries in 2021. And that is the top 1%, maybe even a little less than 1% out there. So the majority of folks aren't going to be dealing with this, at least not under this $23 million. But if one spouse dies and didn't use all their 11,700,000, it is portable, so the other spouse is able to use that as well. So if you're in this situation, you really need to be doing some planning. And then the last one here is the federal GST tax, and that's the generation skipping transfer tax. There's also an $11,700,000 exemption for that. So 11,700,000 for the estate tax and 11,700,000 for the GST tax. And the reason this is set up this way is they didn't want you skipping the first generation, go to the next generation. They want to make sure they get their tax on that as well. Nothing for sure but death and taxes right now.
Right.
But this number, as Nat said, has been changing. The top rate right now for both gift and estate taxes is 40%. Last year it was 11,580,000. This year 11.7. And as Nat said, in 2025 we're going to revert back to 5 million under current law. I've heard rumblings, that could potentially go down as well. So we'll just have to see. It's been a moving target for years, Nat. I remember when it was 625 and 600, and it's changed dramatically over the years. So Nat, I'm gonna let you talk about lifetime gifting.
Yeah, if you're in a situation where you're trying to reduce your overall assets to try to get away from the estate tax, lifetime giving is a great way to do it because you can see the recipients enjoy it while you're alive. You can give to charity. You can minimize transfer taxes by taking advantage of that $15,000 per person annual gift tax exclusion. There's also ways that you can make decisions on what to give as part of your estate and what to give while you're alive. An example is if you leave appreciated assets to your heirs, that's a much better situation because they receive that property after you pass away. They receive a step up in basis, and so they would not have to pay the taxes on it that they would have had you transferred it to them while you were alive. So lots of subtle things like that. We won't get into all of them, but yeah, it's a lot of good, planning ideas with lifetime giving.
Yeah. And there are a lot of neat things you can do. And we see this a lot. Like I said earlier, you can give $30,000 if you and your spouse decide to gift. So if you had 2 children, then each one of you could give $30,000 apiece, $60,000 to them. You can see you can get a lot of money out of your estate that way. Also, we see a lot of grandparents gifting to 529 plans, and you're able to use 5-year forward averaging on gifts there. So you can give $75,000 away to per person, so $150,000 with your spouse, gift tax free. So we see a lot of grandparents funding children's education that way. This next one's kind of interesting. Got a real quick story on that one. If you pay tuition directly to the education school, you can give as much as you want. We had a scenario happen where grandma wanted to pay tuition for grandson at Wake Forest University. It was $54,000. She wrote the check to him. He paid the school. Well, unfortunately, at that time, the annual gift exclusion was only $10,000. We ended up having to file a gift tax return and utilize some of her credit at that point, so they didn't have to pay gift taxes. So the other scenario there is paying directly for someone's medical care. Make sure it goes to the care provider and not them directly. Just little things can trip you up here, Nat. So here, now we'll go ahead and talk about the foundation giving and the way people can possibly participate in that.
Yeah, just briefly, yeah, if you're interested in doing, some of those lifetime gifts, there's many different ways to donate to the foundation. Through your dues, it could be, through the mail. We've got online giving. You can go to the AANA website and donate there. There's also a Rise Above campaign, which is specific for health policy research, if that's a passion that you have. You can also sponsor a scholarship, make a gift in honor or memorial of someone, a loved one. And then I mentioned Friends for Life already. And lastly, yeah, if you do shop on Amazon, we do have an account with Amazon Smile, which is a program where, Amazon will actually donate a portion of each sale that they have if you're connected to it. So you just need to go on smile.amazon.com to connect the AANA Foundation. And so every purchase you have at Amazon, a small percentage will go to the foundation, and that's enough to fund a couple scholarships a year. And so that's every little bit helps.
Yeah. And, Nat, it's rewarding. We did a scholarship years ago to see students that won the scholarship out and doing good things. And they always remember you and come up and say hello. It's just really a nice way to give back to the community, I will say, personally. The other thing we're going to talk about is trust. And trust, it can be complex and confusing. We're going to try to keep out of that tonight and just kind of hit the basics here. But it can provide and protect against incapacity. You can avoid probate by utilizing a trust. You can have professional management of your assets through the use of the trust. You can also have safeguards for minor children or elderly parents. As I mentioned earlier, I told Nat, if I'd have gotten $250,000 at age 18, I probably wouldn't be here today. But I know in my trust personally, my children at age 25, if they're done with college and they're productive members of society, they get 1/3 of the assets in their trust. At age 30, they get another 1/3. And then by 35, if they've hit certain parameters, they get the rest of it. So you can set up safeguards in there as well. You can also protect assets from creditors. We don't know how children are going to turn out. So if they turn out to be Johnny Rotten Little Apple Seeds and they've gotten this money in their little hands and they were to get sued, this money could go away by utilizing a trust. You can hold that in there and they can't typically get control of those assets from a creditor. So there's some creditor protection. And the last thing is just true control. And I know, Nat, we're talking to CRNAs and they're laid back type B personalities. Nobody wants control. I get it. I'm married to one of you, and I am one of you as well because I'm a control freak. But it does give you control over the property that's held into the trust, and you can kind of lay out the terms of that money coming out and what it's used for. So trusts have some neat benefits. Nat, you want to tackle this one real quick?
Yeah, I'll just briefly just address the mechanics of the trust. They can be pretty complex, but the basics are you are the grantor, the person who's setting up the trust, and then you create your trust agreement, which is your blueprint for everything you want the trust to accomplish. And then you're appointing a trustee. The trustee will be your manager and manage that trust for you. And we'll do everything that you have listed out in there according to your wishes. And so it's a pretty important person. A lot of people have a bank as the trustee just because of the financial complexity that gets wrapped up into a trust. So something to consider, and you definitely carefully want to consider whoever that trustee will be. And then most importantly, there's beneficiaries as part of a trust. Those are those individuals that you name that have rights to property in the trust and will be the recipients of your careful planning. So yeah, they're great tools. You definitely need an estate planning attorney to work with, someone that will be really good with this.
Yeah, absolutely. And another tool that we see used a lot in estate planning is life insurance. And, life insurance can create an instant estate. It can provide liquidity in the estate. The one thing that I always implore people to understand is that life insurance is income tax free, but it is not estate tax free if you own it. So life insurance increases the size of your estate. So the key there is the ownership. In fact, Natalie, I have a lot of clients and folks that we've talked to that the AANA has made the beneficiary on the policy. Typically it's not term insurance, it's a permanent policy like universal life or whole life. And you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I don't think so. The foundation, I think I mentioned earlier, but yeah, you can add a beneficiary designation. You can carve off a portion of a permanent life insurance policy for Friends for Life. And so that's a really quick and easy way to become a Friend for Life if that's something that you're interested in.
Yeah. Neat program there. So, the main way to get life insurance out of your estate is using more of a complex trust called an ILIT or an irrevocable life insurance trust. Again, I'm not going to go in a lot of detail here, but basically you create the trust, then the trust buys the policy, you pay the premiums into the irrevocable trust for the benefit of the beneficiaries, and then upon death, the ILIT receives the life insurance policy, and since the ILIT owns it and not you individually, it's not subjected to the estate tax, and then your beneficiaries get all the proceeds free from estate tax. So I know that was a mouthful there, but Nat, you want to add anything to that?
I don't think so. Not tonight. Yeah, that's a whole other chapter on that one. So
the essence of time, maybe we'll do more advanced later on. So
yeah.
Well, I think we'll conclude here. Nat, do you want to kind of do the action steps here?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I think I mentioned earlier that it's really important that you take some, first steps. You attended this. Try to, maybe start small. Pick something out about your estate plan that you would like to investigate. If you don't have a will, try to put that at the top of your list because everyone should have a will. And so, do some research. You can definitely recommend looking locally for an estate planning attorney. You can seek out your local bar association and they can help you with recommendations. But yeah, it's, just, make a commitment right on a date where you're going to make that first step. So that's really important. Yeah, go ahead, Jeremy.
Well, I was just going to say, a lot of times people get bogged down in the decision making along the process. And, as long as you've got something written down and start moving forward, and you're just covering yourself. We buy car insurance and we insure our car, we insure our house. We do all these prudent steps along the way. We save for retirement. It's just another one of those steps that inevitably we're all going to we're all going to die, and we need to make sure we've got it set up properly. So we would just implore you to make sure if you've got an estate plan, you review it, keep it up to date, because things change. And if you don't, make sure you get a will at least in place. So. Well, Nat, we want to thank everybody. Thank you, Nat. As always, you did a great job. If I know there's probably questions in the queue, and if you have additional ones, you can always email Nat. His email's up on the screen. And I think we're going to try to put together a FAQ for the questions, Nat. Is that kind of how this is going to work?
Yeah, that's right. I think we're going to take all of your feedback here. I'm sorry we couldn't answer any questions live, but with the short amount of time, we just couldn't field them all. So we will take a look at any questions or comments you have, and we will send them out to everyone that attended this evening. We really appreciate your time and listening, and hopefully this helped all of you to some extent. And Jeremy, thank you so much for lending your expertise. Jeremy, is a great financial planner, and if you have any questions about financial planning, he's your go-to guy. So absolutely, reach out to him.
Yeah, well, thank you, Nat, and happy CRNA week to everybody, and hope everybody has a great night.
All right, thank you, everyone.